What am I to do?
Welcome to He Said, She Said Razor Branding Podcast with Michael Russo and Jaci Russo. To learn more about how to improve your brand, visit brandRUSSO.com.
Michael, our guest today, Dave Feinman with Viral Ideas, he's a delight. And I think we say that every time, but it really is true. He's an entrepreneur at heart. He's built an amazing business. And anyone who's involved in any aspect of marketing these days knows how important video is as a part of that. So I loved listening to him walk us through their approach of creating videos that really tell stories and impact people.
Yeah, as well as in his internal operations, how he operates his company. And I think there's a lot to be learned there from, acquiring talent, how to process that, how to get people as part of your culture. A lot of that talk too is, I think, very, very beneficial. And you can't have a successful company without that. It's just so important these days.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So everybody stick around and listen to our chat with Dave.
That was kind of lame.
You say that every time. Why don't you do the segue?
Well, it was just, we just kind of...
You do the segue since you can do it better, big man.
Reagan, cut all this out. Go back to the beginning.
No, she will not. Reagan, keep it in.
All right. Goodbye.
What am I to do when the day is through?
Hey, Dave, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. So grateful to be here.
Well, we are grateful that you said yes and that you're here to share your wisdom and knowledge. So maybe we start with you kind of talking a little bit about your company, Viral Ideas, what you do and how you do it.
Awesome. So I started the company about 10 years ago, actually sort of on an accident. I was actually interviewing to work at Google, and at the same time was working with a buddy, Zach, freelancing and doing some work together in the video space. And I got through a few rounds of interviews with Google, and I decided that it really wasn't for me. And I was deciding what I wanted to do after college, and really just decided to ultimately go out on my own with my business partner Zach to create Viral Ideas. And the company it was back then is not the company it is today. So we started originally with the $200 total and a single client, and now we're over 300 clients, 45 employees, and really create videos for companies all around the world.
That's awesome. I was
awesome.
reading about you too. You don't have to get too deep into it, but kind of what led you there. I'm seeing that you had an interview with veterans on the move. How does that relate to what you're doing and your story?
Yeah, I obviously love the vets. I'm not a veteran myself, but I did do an interview with that podcast, and it was great.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yes, I was just doing
Michael was thinking job interview.
Yeah.
Wait, so I want to get back to the Google interview for a minute, the actual job interview. So, from what I've read, Dave, this is your dream job. You're like, Google's the pinnacle of what you've worked for your whole life. You are on the cusp of getting in and you say no. What turned the corner for you?
I remember getting to that. I was in the second interview, and I was like looking at the person, and I was like, is that what I want to be when I grow up? Is that the place that I want to be? And like, I'm sure that person has a great life, but it just wasn't the life for me. Like, it wasn't the life of me for me working in corporate, working my way up through the ranks. And I said to myself, I was like, if I just like write CEO on a business card and start and start working as an owner of a company, like, don't I just leapfrog all the steps that I need to get there? Which obviously, like, after
no,
doing
that's
it for
how
a
it
while,
works. You just decide you're
not,
CEO and then you make $10 million. That is exactly how it works.
And clearly, like, my 21-year-old brain like thought that, and that's not the truth. Like, you need like a team to actually be a real CEO in real life, and have stepped up over the years. So I think really for me, it was just projecting out my life and just looking and saying, like, I don't want to be there at Google. It's supposed to be the best company to work for. It just didn't seem like the right place for me to thrive. And I was always very entrepreneurial. I started my first business when I was 16 years old. So I was someone, who was always had a hustle going on, always had something to do. And I didn't really know if I wanted to continue that path for the rest of my life. But after interviewing at a place where everyone wants to work and realizing, like, hey, this is not the place that I really want to work. I want to do it for myself. That's kind of when I realized, like, okay, this is the path that I'm going to take.
Right. Now, when you talk about your entrepreneurial early days, are we going all the way back to the zombie run?
The first business I did was with a buddy. We did team dances at an athletic club. So that was my first business. Then we built a half marathon, then we did a zombie run. I had a couple other failed little businesses in between. I had this little like home swimming company that I did for a summer where we would send people out to people's houses to teach them swim lessons at their like in their backyard pools. So I had like a couple little ventures, and the zombie run was really the big one that like took off nationally. That I started with the same buddy that I started the company with in high school. So that was a big one. And I started that when I was in college, and then sold that business as well. So it really that was like my first big venture.
Right.
And then viral ideas fell after that.
That's
And
awesome.
sort of just kind of the opportunity just sort of happened, right? Like I was doing some consulting work, for a couple companies with a buddy Zach, and we had known each other since high school as well. And he owned a DJ company and was working on an app, so we kind of got together and started working on these video consulting contracts, and it gradually snowballed and led to us starting a real business, right? Like we didn't think it was going to be a real business, to be frank. Like we just were kind of like having fun, making a couple extra bucks together, and like in college, like a couple $1,000 goes like along, like
Huge.
you're like you could ball out like on that amount of money in college. Like so that for us 10 years ago was like the best when we started our senior year of
Right.
college.
Was video a part of what you had interest in, or was it just an opportunity that you saw in the market? Like, was that something that you had a passion for, doing videos
Yeah.
on your own kind of thing?
It's actually funny. Like I guess my parents saw something because I was put in this program called Cinekid, which was maybe like 30 minutes from where I lived, and it was this, retired Hollywood guy who created this program for kids. This guy Bob Clark, and he created this program where all these like nerdy film kids would come and create movies and TV shows, on the weekends. Like you just go there and they had all this crazy equipment, which at the time, like now it's completely obsolete, but you would actually like edit with two VHS tapes on a deck. And like, I would always love doing behind the scenes videos and editing those behind the scenes videos. So that was like my thing that I did there. And I would make these like, I would follow everyone around the camera. I would show like the behind the scenes of how everything was made. And so my interest for videography started there, and I would always like carry a camera into school and make like weird videos with my friends. And they were like old school cameras. It wasn't like a digital camera. It was like you would put tape in the actual camera
Hmm.
back then. And then it slowly
In the
progressed
old
to like
days, in the old days, yeah.
yeah. And I remember like I scrapped together some money in high school to like buy this like editing system called Pinnacle. And you had to like, it was like this convoluted system, and I had a VHS tape and like this whole setup in my house. So I was really into it. The funny thing is like now at Viral Ideas, like I haven't actually edited a single video. Like I have a whole team now that like does it. But my interest for it started at a young age. My interest for video and production and how things
Yeah,
come together.
I mean, we can talk about it a little more too, how things have changed and are changing dramatically. But I remember when I was in college, and I'm a little older than you probably, but judging from the gray. But when I was in school, I took a media course, and we had state of the art technology. We had an Amiga system put in, and this was like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was a huge workstation. They had like two monitors, all these racks with all these things and lights and bells and whistles, and two cameras on wheels in a little studio. And we were able to go in there and have all these switchers, and we could like do all these effects. And it was all cheesy, horrible. I still have VHS tapes with all my stuff from that class. And but all of that technology, all that stuff in there, which was huge, is now right here.
100%.
It's just amazing how quick. I don't think we ever paused to realize how fast this has happened and how fast it's continuing to happen with that technology.
I agree. And it continues to evolve at like a very rapid pace. But it
Hmm.
but it's almost akin, like the digital world is almost akin to the physical world, right? Like, you know, you go way back in history, right? Like they used to plow fields by hand, right? Like they would, and then eventually they invented a shovel and invented a rake, and then invented something that went on the back of a donkey, and then a tractor, and now there's robo tractors. So, like anything else, like the technology in our industry is just now sort of starting to evolve at more of a rapid pace where, I remember some of like the early versions of the software, it would take forever just to do one little thing. And now you
Hmm.
can just click a button and, color correct something, or change over a voice, or even create a new voiceover. You could do that,
Hmm.
using technologies like 11 Labs in 2 seconds. So it's just the speed to which we're able to do a task has gone down. But I don't think that's going to get rid of the humans personally.
Yeah, Jackie brings up that example a lot. We talk about AI and we can't help not talking about it because it's so in our world, it's so relevant, and really it's just you can't avoid it. But like the person that used to walk around lighting the lamps with the flame,
Sure.
like that was before electricity. And things keep changing and evolving, and people evolve with it. And I always go back to the story of John Henry with the hammer. I remember that as a kid. And I don't know if you know that or not, but he had to it was him and a steam engine, and they had to break through this cliff to build a tunnel. And so it was a race between him and the steam engine, and he battles the steam engine. And he finally gets through, and the sad part is he dies after. Anyway, it's a sad story. Remember, it's a true story.
I might need you to keep this story to yourself in future podcasts.
But you can take a lot from that. But anyway, it was.
I don't think you can.
You can. But but it was a struggle of that, and the struggle we have today. And I'm sure you find in your profession probably find it useful in a lot of ways, because how do you streamline production? How do you take the tools that are there to harness and use for your advantage? At the same time, the problem is that a lot of these tools are falling into the hands of people that maybe aren't experienced enough, and maybe and it's wide open basically now. Used to be there were kind of gatekeepers in the way of that, and now everybody has access to a lot of tools that they used to not have. Same thing with film equipment. I mean, you can go buy a film kit, lights and stuff for a couple $100. That used to be thousands and thousands of dollars, microphones and all these things, and now they have these really, really affordable things. So the access to that technology is right there. So how do you handle that?
I think like anything else, right? Like it's just a tool at the end of the day. If you were to put like a saw, hammer, and home renovation stuff in my hands, like I can do some of it, but it's not going to be as good as a professional home remodeler can do it. Or if you put a home remodeling robot in the hands of me, I'm not going to be able to do as well with it as someone who has 20 years of experience modeling homes. So I think it comes down to, in this modern age, taste is what makes a difference. If you have good taste, if you're able to, manipulate the softwares in the right way, if you're able to, come up with a vision and a good story, that's not going to go away, right? Like the human nature of it's not going to go away. The speed at which we can do things with humans plus tool is going to just increase. Our motivation for next year at Viral is like, we have all these editors that work for us. Our goal for next year in 2026 is 50% of their jobs right now. Our goal is to take 50% of what they do and add AI into the mix. And I didn't say replace them. I just said they need to be able to do 50% of their jobs with AI. That's not to say that I'm going to get rid of anyone on my team. The stated goal is they need to be more efficient using the tools that are commercially available, because otherwise someone else is going to figure out how to do it and we're going to fall behind. So I think if you go back in history too, like, and if you read some of the headlines from any new piece of technology, there's always people on the opposite side of it that are, that are going to argue with it. I remember reading a headline when I remember reading this headline from, back when Henry Ford invented the car, or Henry Ford commercialized the car. And it was about how the horse and buggy, like it was something about how you were losing the essence of the horse and buggy, how it's going to ruin the roads and cars are going to ruin society. And if you look at any major technological advancement since then, there's always going to be people on the other side of it that are going to say this is the worst thing for society. And ultimately, as society and technology progresses, historically things have only ever gotten better, and the human condition has only ever improved.
To be clear, if you handed me a hammer, a saw, and a drill, I would be in the hospital. So I do not go near those.
With seven fingers.
Is that true, Jackie? Is that true?
Very true.
Yeah, I've been banned from any kind of homework. We have several handymen that we call when things need to be done, because it's not that I can't do it. It just she doesn't like the way they're done, and they are dangerous. So
no, let's go back to you can't do it. Those aren't your skill sets.
No,
and
they're
that's
not.
okay.
They're not. But I feel, I feel the
create
man in
magic
me
with
needs
a
to
mouse.
be,
I'm not going to take the mouse out of your hand to put a hammer in it. Come on.
I know. But no, I agree completely with that. And I think the hard part is for me as a creative, though, it's hard because like we're having these same conversations internally. We have writers that work for us, and we're trying to go to them and say, look, I need you to get more involved in AI. We use it as a tool, help speed up processes. Don't let that write for you. And because they're immediately pushing it off, saying, no, I'm a writer. I'm not going near that. And so there's this pride in it, and I have it too. I don't want to say, oh, and people are trying to hide their trails and say, oh, I don't use AI, I use AI, and it's like, we're all using it because it's there and you have to, and how to use it again as a tool and not as a thought leader. Because if you start to lean too much on that, then all of a sudden you stop having the ability to think for yourself, I think, and that's the danger in it.
If you look at writing too, right? You used to write on a typewriter. Before the typewriter, you used to write by hand. You would just like write on a piece of paper. And then the computer came along, and then the computers developed spell check, right? So like, spell check changes your grammar, changes your writing, make sure that you're writing the correct way. And now it's AI, which can effectively write for you, but it doesn't write for you in your voice. It doesn't write for you in your tone. It doesn't write for you in the exact way that you want to write. So you're still the editor, the master of the tone. You're still, you're still creating. It's just you're creating with a new tool.
Just to switch us out of AI just for a minute, Dave, what do you see as the trick or the secrets or the process to creating videos that people really will pay attention to? Because there's a lot of video content out there and more coming every day. So, what is your system that you feel like really helps people lock into what y'all are making?
Yeah, I think the key starts always with a good story. So if you can create a good story that the beginning part has a really strong hook, like the first 3 seconds of the video are drawing you in and creating an itch that you can't seem to scratch. They create some sort of curiosity in there. They create something that is a little bit unknown. Like for example, like if you're filming something and let's say you were to film that thing and instead of just filming it normally, you left your zipper of your pants undone. It creates a little bit of a curiosity about what is that going on there, right? Or if you do something in the beginning of the video that draws the people in, that really creates an itch that can't be scratched. That's the first part of the video. Second part of the video, you're going to want to start raising the stakes, start increasing the amount of the amount that that gap gets stretched and creates this itch that won't be scratched until the end of the video, which is really like a payoff. So at the end of the day, a good video is just a story arc. A good movie is a series of story arcs where the stakes are raised. Like if you look at the movie Taken is a perfect example. It's a really high stakes movie. It opens up and you start to build some character development. Then the stakes get raised. Two girls get kidnapped, and then you have Liam Neeson come in to kind of save the day. So
I have very special skills.
I have very special skills. I will find you and I will kill you. If you start to see that gap increase, like you just for short form video, you just got to compress that down to 1 minute instead of 1 to 2 hours for a movie. So really that's the big thing. And then with editing, there's lots of tricks that you could do along the way to add in little retention moments, little tricks that kind of keep people engaged with the video that work really well.
Yeah, I think the problem too, like, I think especially I can always spot a novice or an amateur trying to do stuff, but like there's so many bells and whistles sometimes. And it's the same thing when Photoshop really came on. Everybody was using all these little bells and, oh, here's a cool effect or here's this effect or that effect. And all of a sudden you have like all these things thrown into the kitchen sink. And sometimes it's just really clean, easy cuts. And sometimes you use those effectively and knowing, like you said earlier, knowing when, having the ability to understand how that process works and when to use certain things, when not to use certain things, and when to use those tools and when not to.
It's actually really hard, I think, in design and in video as well to do something well and simple. Like if you look at some of the best logos in the world, like the Apple logo, logo that's now part of $1 trillion company, the Microsoft logo, $1 trillion worth of value in those logos. They are simple. It's just a really, really simple logo. But that simplicity, I think, is really hard to do. And I think where people muddy things up is they try to put too much in it. Like too much going on is not a good thing with design, because it tricks the brain. Like you're not sure where to focus. You're not sure where they're taking you in a video. So I think if you can get a simple, clean video, that works a lot better than something with too many lights flashing at you and too much chaos.
What are your thought processes on length of time? We still get clients talking about wanting a 5-minute video, a 15-minute video, a 7-hour video. What have you started to kind of guide your people towards?
It's a great question. And it's so contextual based. So the length of time that someone will pay attention depends on the context of the situation, right? So if you're looking at something like, let's start with what people will spend the most time watching is something like Netflix, where they will binge watch hours and hours and hours of a TV show on a Saturday afternoon on a rainy day. And they will just sit there, watch a show back to back. Like last one I did was Squid Games. I could not take my eye off of that thing for like 2 days. I was just like glued to the television screen, like wanting to see what happens next. You go to the other end of the spectrum with corporate videos, and it really depends on where you're putting the material on the platform. If it's something like Instagram or TikTok, you got to keep it short, because those videos are you're trying to stop someone from scrolling on a screen. So you really got to capture their attention and get them hooked in for a longer period of time. If the video is good, they'll keep watching and they'll scroll in to see more. And then if someone's trying to learn something, like a YouTube video, for example, or a podcast, people will watch for 35 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour. Joe Rogan's podcast is sometimes 4 or 5 hours. So, it really depends on like how well you could do. But what I always advise my clients on is get the 1-minute video done first. Look at the attention graph when you're done making the video, and can you hold someone's attention for 1 minute? If you can't hold 50 to 60% of your audience attention for 1 minute, we got to go back to the drawing board. We got to figure out, are we editing this correctly? Are you speaking in the right cadences? Are you telling the right story? So we have to go back to the drawing board and figure that out. But it really comes down to like, okay, like what's the medium, and is the video actually good enough for people to want to watch it for more than a minute?
Yeah, and I think there's a definite sometimes a talent or skill set or just an intuity to some of those things. Like I know early in my career, I would go on video shoots and we had full crews and all these different things. And I would sit down in an editor's bay and try to edit things together. And I got so frustrated because I was like, no, you're not seeing it the way I just had an instinct for some things like that. And I would never call myself a video editor, but I was like so frustrated that they couldn't do what I wanted them to do in the pacing or the timing. And so I went and taught myself Final Cut Pro and started doing, I was like, give me all the footage, let me do it, and now it's just so easy with, Premiere, whatever else, all the tools you have at your disposal with the sound quality and all those things. It's just really, they make it easy, but you still have to have the ability to kind of see some things and have that story in your head in a way. Like my daughter actually just finished college and she studied film editing there. And she was just like, she would do these little home videos on her phone, and they were always so fascinating to watch and intriguing. And you're watching all the way to the end. You're like, I have no idea who these people are, but I'm engaged in the story. And it was so fun. I just felt like I was part of it, and she had a gift for that, and I think people, you need to really kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess stick to what inside what is right, instead of what you think people are going to want to see. Because sometimes those conflict, like, oh, I'm going to do something because I know people are going to, you're trying to read their mind sometimes. And you have to have that as part of it, knowing your audience. But at the same time, you have to go with your instincts too and say, all right, this is the story I'm trying to tell. And if I tell it right, people are going to respond,
I agree. And it's also about putting some little Easter eggs in there too, right? Like you put in, if you look at some of the best viral videos, there's stuff that's in there that is out of place that make people curious. There could be some typo in something, or there could be, something in the background. You're like, what is that? And it makes you go back and watch a little bit more of it. So some of these like short form videos or even long form videos, the best ones have stuff that like really intrigue people in and get them curious about something that might be out of place or isn't supposed to be there.
Well, there's it's funny you said that. There's a guy that we had somebody from his group on our podcast a few months back. Roy, what's his last name, Jackie? I'm sorry.
Williams.
Roy Williams. He invented this group in Austin, Texas called the Wizard of Ads. Yeah. And he's a huge complex down there, and he's a very, popular, famous writer in the area kind of thing, and done a lot of national campaigns and stuff. But he talks about that. And I went to one of his classes early on, and I've always owned that. But he talks about the Easter egg thing, like throwing something in there. He calls it the gorilla, throwing a gorilla every once in a while. And that way it like stands out as memorable, something that catches it. And so I started doing that with like writing blogs and stuff. I'd always throw in like some little 80s reference or Dukes of Hazzard, something odd, whatever. And people may or may not get it, but it caused them to kind of pause and go, oh, that's going to hold for a second. And it's going to be somewhat memorable. And then you continue on. And it's just those little triggers, that psychology of staying top of mind.
I agree. I think what it does is it really entices you to like wonder, why is that there? It increases more comments about, oh, did you just at second 11, did you see that gorilla in the back? It really pulls you in.
One of the things that I think y'all are kind of talking around, which I think is interesting, is no matter what happens with AI, no matter how much the technology and the software improves, y'all have gone from hand splicing video footage to the digital tools to now, I mean, the highest level, Descript and CapCut are so like making it easy for people. Is there not still an element of talent that is required? You know, you can give the same footage to Michael, to our daughter Maggie, and to me, and you're going to get three very different creations. You know, Michael's old school, by the book, the way it's going to be. Maggie brings a lot of newer generation. The way she's approaching it is kind of what that group wants. And mine's going to look like crap,
Did you just
even
call
though
me
we all
old?
started with the
Let's just
same amount of
pause.
footage.
Pause. I think you just call me old. You call me
Oh,
the
I did.
old man
You know,
in
I
the
very
yard.
much did. Yes.
I'm not. No, it's not
You're
fair.
30 years older than her. You're a different generation.
I'm young and hip, Jackie. I'm young and hip, and I have the pulse of the young
You're
generation
young
in
with
my
a
hand.
hip that's about to break, Michael.
God, please. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
I think, like we talked about before, you still need that professional with experience.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, if you gave any of our editors all the AI tools, which we do, we give all of our editors AI tools that they can use the same way the clients can use them. Our editors are going to be able to create something way better than the clients will, because we have honed our craft, and these editors have grown up and understood what it takes to edit something in the old school way. So they know how to make a story arc, and they know what good is, right? They have good taste. So I think half the battle is, when you're working with someone, you need to figure out, what does good mean to that person, right? Like, what is a good outcome? Because they can then use the tools to create that end good outcome for a client, for themselves. So it's really about marrying that taste with the tools.
Yeah, and I think the hard part too is, I mean, because we have, had people say, and I want a viral video. I want something to go viral. And it's like, all right, well, is that good or bad? And capturing lightning in a bottle is tough, But if you look on like TikTok, for example, some of the viral videos are absolutely ridiculous. And it's just somebody, and if you look at their feed, it's them doing this one dance to the same song in a different outfit 85 times, because they're trying to chase the algorithm, or they're trying to find something that grabs onto a trend or whatever, things like that. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing always to stay with trends, but at the same time, not not put all your eggs in one basket and hope for that, because that's not, I don't know. I think you still need to understand your audience. You still need to have a good message. You still need to have a good story. And if you're selling out for something like that, what is the gain? I got some more followers. Yeah, but did you actually, and we're in the business of selling things and communicating things, right? And if we're not doing our job with that, then all the other stuff is just window dressing.
If you look at the formula for a good video, and you look at some of the videos that have gone globally viral recently, like one that comes to mind is the Coldplay video, right? That's something that was recorded, and I say it, and everyone knows what it is, right? Everyone has seen at least a clip of the video, and the reason it went viral, if they hadn't ducked, if those two people hadn't ducked and they just stayed there, hadn't moved, that video would not have gone viral. It would not have, because it wouldn't have been out of place. But because they dove under the camera once they were on the Jumbotron, like, it caused the video to go viral, and it caused, obviously all the news stories, all the talking heads talking about it, and it blew up out of proportion. So it really followed the exact formula we talked about, right? Like, it had a hook in the first 3 seconds, right? The first 3 seconds of the video, like, hooked you in. Chris Martin starts talking, I forget exactly what he said, but he said like something to the effect of like, oh, like, are you having an affair, something like that. And like, and then you see them duck, and it's completely like, that is not something that normally happens when a camera goes on to people in an audience. So it really worked out well in their favor, because that created something that was out of place. It created that, almost like that Easter egg. That's something that like itch that you want to scratch. And then it created a story and a narrative around that topic. Like, everyone started talking about, CEOs. There was a whole sidetrack on infidelity. There was a whole sidetrack on, it gave people something to talk about, which created a viral moment and a viral video. And that same philosophy can be also manufactured. Like, you can create that as entertainment for other people. That was obviously a real scenario, and obviously horrible for the family that, was infected by that. But it was a viral moment that happened at a Coldplay show and followed the exact formula for a viral video.
One thing that I want to ask you too, and I agree with all that. But yeah, like I said, there's one couple I've seen, and they like the popularity of fail videos, where people fail and fall and all this stuff. but all their videos are her making a mistake and hitting him in the groin for some reason. And they're all but I'm like, that's all they do. There's like 80 videos of her swinging a hammer and missing and hitting him in the groin, or her with the board turning around, hitting him in the head, and that's all that's their thing, you know? And so I don't know. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but chasing after things I think is tough. You know, it's like, you know, I'd rather, you know, if things happen naturally, organically, but again, are we sticking to who we are and what we're about versus just chasing a trend? You know, I think that's a tough road to go on.
It's also about about putting your spin on it. There's this one pancake house who does these amazing videos. I think it's called Jane's Pancakes or something like this. And what they do is she'll take a video that's gone viral. Like the one that you always see is like the person falling out of the paramedic bay and like rolling off of it. And like, you know, so this woman, it's called hook hacking, right? Like, so you basically take a hook that you know works already. Like, so that video of the person falling off the ambulance, we know it works. Like, people have seen it. There's a lot of views on it. So you take that hook and you re-record your own version and spin on that to get you people in the first part of it. You know, the one that I saw recently was like someone skydiving, and it's like talking about how, like, if you fall from a plane without a parachute, and it lands and then it goes into an ad. So I think like that stuff works. And you know, to your example of someone getting hit in the groin, right? Like, if you're find a formula that works, you can repeat that formula until it gets fatigued. Like, people will come to you and like watch those videos and want to see the scenarios because it creates some sort of curiosity every single time. So, you know, it's like a television show format that works over and over again. Shark Tank, there's a formula there, right? It's a show that works over and over again. If you look at YouTubers like Mr. Beast, it's a formula that he does over and over again. And the formula, he'll change the formula once it gets a little fatigued. But you know, the formula, once the formula works, you can use it a few times and you know, and keep it moving until it starts to get a bit fatigued.
Yeah, and I guess it's the integration of entertainment and advertising, you know, and because we work with companies, and companies they're trying to, again, get a message out into certain things, and it's like there's that slippery slope of, am I going to go down that rabbit hole of trying to be overly clever at times and times, you know, just creative in messaging, and versus chasing after something and kind of overly trying too hard, I guess is what I'm getting at. Like, and you can tell the ones that are like, they try to jump on a trend and it's like, just stop. Like, it's not, you're trying way too hard, and you got to kind of realize who you are sometimes too, you know? We're not all what's the power drink?
Red Bull.
Red Bull. We're not all Red Bull. We can't all be, you know, that, you know, because they have a certain style, they have a certain thing about them. And if you're not that, it's like when you try to pretend to be that, unless it's really purposely done, you're trying to get a point across, it can come off artificial, you know?
You don't want to create a persona that you're not on the internet, because then you have to step into that persona and you're almost pretending to be someone that doesn't exist. I have dabbled in, like, over the years, over the past 10 years, we've created maybe close to 50,000 videos for our clients and created a few hundred more every single week. And I've never invested in my own content, but I just have started. And one vow I made to myself is, like, I'm not going to change who I am for this content. Like, this is, you know, I'm going on the starting to make it, but I'm also not going to not put something out because I feel like I'm going to be embarrassed about it. It's because it's, you know, I've seen over the years my clients, like, not like that a little piece of hair is out of place, or, you know, not like the way they look on one day. You know, it's about putting it out there even when it feels hard, right? When you're doing content creation, and even when it's not perfect. Sometimes those are the videos that do the best. Sometimes those, like, raw videos. Like, it's funny. We did a recording session yesterday with my videographer, and we were doing some B-roll, and I was joking around with her about, like, common things that video production companies and agencies get. Like, the one joke I was making, like, while I was doing the B-roll, you know, we were doing a mock phone call, and I was like, all right, client, like, how's it going? Like, just to confirm, like, you want it to pay that, you know, $200 invoice, you want it in 10 monthly installments, right? And it was just like, it was jokes about, like, common agency things, but in extreme. And she's like, next time we record, you should do that. And just like start trying to do some of that, like some of those, like, skits, because I think the things that actually feel the most natural and the things that come the most natural to you sometimes is the content that you should be doing. Also, the things that happen the worst to you, the largest pains, the largest lessons that you have, or is the content you should be doing, because that's the content that's going to resonate with the most people.
Absolutely. Jack, do you have anything to add to that before I move on?
No, I wanted to kind of circle back to your team, Dave. You know, you're talking about managing close to 50 people. How do you do that? Are y'all all working in the same space? Are people virtual? How do you build culture? How do you hire? Do you give people test projects? Like, walk me through the process of building a team with all that talent, which talent is code for crazy.
I could do a 3-hour podcast just on this. So I will just try to distill this down into like a few core lessons that I've learned over the years in hiring and building the team. Over the years, I've probably hired, probably close to 200 video editors, and we have a team of 40. So, either on a freelance basis or, full time, and they haven't stuck with us for a while. But we have a really core group of 40 people or 45 people who are amazing right now. And what we do a little bit differently is, number one, we're a completely remote team. So our culture is remote first, which means that we have to be very intentional about how we bring people into our world. So we have a listed stated core values. We have a 20-minute lesson on those core values. And people are graded against those core values, right? So there's 8 of them in our business, and we really stand by those. In our hiring process, you could lie at this point on a resume with AI. It's really easy. You can, and I bet most people do actually use AI to help them with their resume. But what we do a little bit differently is we get your resume. If we like your resume, we like your background, we'll start out with you have to send us like a 2 or 3 minute video sharing a little bit about yourself. And this test, number one, are they going to ask us a million questions about how to upload the video, or can they just like figure out how to do it? If you can figure out how to do it and upload the video, send us the link, make sure the link is not like it's shareable, like you pass the test there, right? Then what we do is we do a paid test project and a screening round. So essentially, like, we'll pay you before you even work for us. We'll pay you. It's not a lot of money, but it's a little bit of money. We'll pay you to do a paid test project, no matter what the role is. Even if it's a management role or an editing role, I want to see your work. Sometimes we're really excited about a candidate that can sell themselves really well on camera, but the second we see their work, we're like, whoa, like, what happened there? This person is a great salesman, but they can't do the work that we want them to do in this job description. And sometimes we'll find that people are really quiet and they're not the best salespeople, but we get their work back and we're like, oh my gosh, like this is.
Let me interrupt real quick. I apologize, Dave, because I
Yeah.
love what you're saying. Do you do anything to try to recreate the actual environment, like give them a really short timeline or like some not enough information? How do you make it feel as much like the way it's going to be when they're working with you?
The test project is a mirror of an exact project that they would get. So to your point there, we will give editors a really undetailed brief.
Yes.
Intentionally. So the brief is like as vague as you could possibly get.
Yes.
And like the example is like, the example's not that great. So we just want to see what like happens when you give someone not a lot of details.
Right.
Like, and it'll be, for salespeople, we'll give them like a task on like, how would you sell this situation? We have an angry client. This is the angry client. What do you do? No context. There's no context with the situation. We just kind of give it to you. And we just want to see what you're going to do. We want to see how you think. It doesn't have to be a perfect answer, but we just want to see how you're going to perform in this test project before we invite you into our world.
Right.
Because while it is a paid test project and that is an investment on our side, what would be worse is if I hired someone and they were really bad at their job and then I had to deal with them. That would cost me way more than ever the couple bucks that I'm going to pay someone for a test project. And it's mutually beneficial because someone that's getting paid for something in an interview process is not going to feel like, oh my gosh, I have to go through this whole interview process. It's going to take 5-6 hours. Like, at least they're getting paid for a few hours of their time. They can go take themselves out for a dinner, afterwards. And, even if they don't get hired, they at least get some financial compensation for doing a little bit of work for us.
Yeah. We're kind of going through that right now with some applicants, and we just had a conversation this morning about that because I was ready to bypass that because I was frustrated with the process and we needed somebody now, and it was like Jaci kind of talked me off the ledge, and we kind of going through that same process. It's harder. I think it's harder with I don't know. I say it's hard. It's always hard because you're gambling on that on even a brief test project. You're like, how deep are you? And I think I don't know about you, but the resumes I get these days and portfolios, they're not as deep as I would expect them to be at times. And there's just a glimpse of something, and I'm like, well, how do I know you can do this or this and there's a lot more behind it, especially in the agency world where you're asked to do a lot of things.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story. So we were interviewing for a job a few weeks ago, and we had this one candidate that we really liked. We did a screen on their resume, screen on their portfolio, and we said, hey, next step in the process, you're just gonna send us a 2 or 3 minute video, telling us about who you are. Like mandatory. Like in our process, you have to do it. Non-negotiable. Like you have to do it. Candidate writes back, if my 10 years of experience and my this and that isn't enough for you, then I don't know what to tell you. You should be able to take a 15-minute meeting with me. Boom. Now I know they have an ego. Now I know they don't want to. Now I don't want to. I know they don't want to take 2 or 3 minutes to do it. The video part doesn't take that long. Truly.
Says everything. Says everything.
Yeah. Now I know the candidate, and all we said back was, sorry, that's part of the process. We'll remove you. No problem.
What's your big three, Jackie? Tell them.
Humble, happy, hungry.
Love it. I love that.
I didn't make it up. Yeah. Michael loves to give me credit. We all know I didn't make it up.
Well, 2 out of 3 will work. If you got only one of the 3, it's not going to work. Luckily, all three. If you have all 3, then you're ideal candidate for us.
Yes. And it's vital. I think the test project is vital, but not giving them all the information because that's not reality. So we've got to make it a little difficult because that's what the real world is like and a real short timeline. Assessing their personality and how they're going to blend with the team. So going through that whole process ensures you're recruiting people who have the best chance to be successful. Dave, what do you do once they're a part of the team? Is there ongoing professional development? How do you keep them connected and feel like they're part of a team?
Okay, so we do a lot of cool stuff. So we actually have a whole training program that we built. Nice. And you go through, like on your first day, you enter the company and you log on and you get to hear about our founding story. You get to hear about our roots. Like we come from really humble roots, right? Like, started the business with $200. Like, so like we want people to hear that story because employee number 100 here is going to think that this is a really big company that has a lot of money. But I still remember living in an apartment with 4 guys that paid $500 a month, and mice in the basement. Like I still remember that. Like that's still ingrained in the back of my head. And like, I don't want people to forget where this company came from because I think that reflects in the clients. It reflects in how we care about every single client because like I treat every client as if it was the last client I was going to ever get. Like that's every new client I get, it's like I pretend like I have no new business ever going to come to me again. I just have to take care of my current world. So I want people to get that ethos when they walk into our doors. So on their first day, they're put through a series of trainings about our values, our culture, what it means to us, and how we are humble and we admit our weaknesses because that's the only way to build a strong team. And like we talk about all this, within the first couple of days of someone joining, and we explain to them even in the interview process that like, hey, you might not want to work here. like this might not be the place for you. Like in the last interview, we're not trying to talk you into working here. Like this job is, a little bit, we do things a little bit differently around here. Right. Like, and we talk about how, while we never meet while we're not meeting our coworkers in real life, these are people on the other side of the keyboard. So, you are to treat with everyone here with respect, no matter where they are and, what you're doing. You're not like barking at people over a keyboard. It's about, creating that mutual trust and those good virtual relationships. So, we're starting to add in a program now where, if people are in each other's city, like we're funding them to go out to dinner, to have some fun, like to have some good times with each other. And our employees have started to do that. So to create a little bit of in-person culture, we've thought about flying people in, but at the end of the day, like every time we ask our team, we're like, hey, do you want us to fly you in or do you want some extra dollars in cash? They're always like, give me the money. So like, so we've never done the fly everyone in, but so a lot of the team members I've never really met, actually most of them I've never met in person. Most of them I've just dealt with virtually.
I do have, I know we're kind of running short on time, but I do have a craft question because like I was looking at your website and 3 of the bullet points in the front, entry way is, send us your video footage. We produce amazing video, jump to your next video. So people are sending you in content. Is there a training process that you try to provide people on how to shoot proper video? Because, I still believe in, garbage in, garbage out. Sometimes it's tough. If you get bad video footage coming in, sometimes there's nothing you can do with it and you can do your best. But like if it's bad audio or if there's a truck going by or if the light is blinding or whatever it may be, sometimes it's just impossible to produce something that doesn't have enough whatever. And so do you have like a one sheet that you send to people, or try to direct them and say, hey, look, here's how you frame your picture. Here's, if you're using a phone, do this, use a tripod when possible, that kind of thing, have a microphone, avoid direct light. I mean, times of the day, all that good stuff.
We always tell clients, the video you send us is going to be on a scale of 1 through 10. If it's a 1, I can get it to a 3. If it's a 3, I can get it to a 5, right? Like I can't turn a 1 into a 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I mean, my standard of a 10 is probably different than a client's standard of a 10. So there's obviously like a different, a different grading scale for everyone grading. But yes, we do offer clients, like we offer clients a guide basically on how to film. And we also offer we also give our clients, like, one of the things that we'll sometimes give them is, hey, this is how you hire a video editor that doesn't suck. Like, we've created like a 25-page guide on how to like work with your video editor, which, but by the way, if anyone wants it in your audience, I'm happy to like give it as a gift. So just DM me at David Feinman and just say guide, and I can give you like basically a gift for this podcast audience, of basically how to hire an editor that doesn't suck. Because like there is so much that you have to do when working with creatives that most people who have never done it before just don't understand. Like, and when you're working with an agency or a company, there's you have to make sure you two are aligned on your goals and objectives when doing something.
Yeah, there's been times we've not only led the horse to water, we've literally held up the water to his mouth. We've done everything we could, and we're still get back. I'm like, I don't know what you saw in that we didn't talk about. Like, especially like, because we used to fly across the country and we send a whole crew or hire a crew locally and do all these different things. And now it's just so remote. Like even headshots, for example, it's like, look, let me hire your photographer locally. Oh, we can do it. We have whatever. And so you give them direction, you give them samples, and it just 9 out of 10 times doesn't always work the way you want it to. And so. And especially with so many companies working remotely, I mean, they have people all over the country too. And so to say they're all going to be in one place for one shoot is almost impossible. So you have to really kind of organize those things and train them on some of the basics that you take for granted. Like I'll shoot something and Jaci will shoot something, and it's two totally different things, just because she's not seeing it the way I'm seeing it,
Yeah. Again, it all comes back to taste at the end of the day. Like what is
some people's tastes are better. Some people's tastes are better.
It's a talent. And I accept and appreciate that I don't have that talent. It doesn't matter how great the technology is or the software, there's a talent there, and it's not my skill set.
I'm
envious of it, but it is not my talent. And that's okay. I have other talents.
On a side note, I saw an interview yesterday with David Roth for some reason, and he was talking about how he doesn't like to get shot these days or later in Van Halen's career. And he was talking about in their early careers, like in the 70s, all the concert photographers and band musician photographers, they had this certain camera where they held low, and they would shoot like this. They would look down. I don't know what camera that's called, but they would shoot. And he said all the photography was so much more dramatic. He started showing examples of it, and he made a lot of sense. It was like everything was down here looking up, and it had a certain kind of dramatic look to it, and all these different things. And he says nowadays everything's different, high and all these different angles, and it's not flattering and whatever. It was just an interesting take on the technology, again, the progressiveness of photography and how we're using that in today's standards.
You could do so much. You could do so much to just change a mood of something by changing an angle of something, right? Like if you're shooting up here versus down here, it like creates two different effects. Like we just did a shoot for a client and a few months ago, and they wanted like a really dramatic look, like because they were really telling this incredible story about how their business can really like improve the world. So we shot the video a little bit like low and up, just like you were saying with the music artist. And what it did is it created more of an emotion and more of a feeling, right? So all those little things and how something's shot or even how something's edited can really change the tone and how you're feeling. And what goes into it as well is like how is the color grading, how is the sound, what are the sound effects? Because if you ever want to not be scared during a horror movie, just turn off the sound. And you will just start laughing, or take a clip of a horror movie and just like play some funny music during it, and it will completely change the mood of the movie. Versus like the dramatic effect and the way they're doing the follow along shot. It's all to create a feeling and to create a mood.